All right. Hey, it's Simon here, kicking off another session where hopefully we can make some progress building this app. Just double checking that I am streaming. Yes, I am live. Can I share this? All right, so this is stream number 4 in our journey to productionize a vibe-coded app. I am just going to pull up some stuff. What are we looking at here? So I have, which screen do I want to use first? I want to go to this. So I have, just to give you a context about what I have set up, I have my Chrome here, which is logged into Google Cloud. I've got I started a new Firebase app just because my local project was getting very confused. It seemed like I created a hosting app and that conflicted with the hosting system. And anyway, I got in a situation where I was getting errors that I couldn't Google. So I started all over again. So we've got a new app here. It doesn't have much in it. There's the Firebase console. We have over in this browser. No, I want to look at, I'm just trying to remember what browsers I've got for what here. I thought I had, okay, we've got over here, we've got, what do we got here? We want to get rid of this, clear. All right, so we have our code base and I have pretty much stripped it right back to the start again. So I've got a new, essentially I've got a new Firebase application, or I've made, the main thing that I've run is Firebase kind of init and Firebase deploy. And when I did what I've learned from doing the Firebase command line is that when I was first doing it, I was choosing many of these things. And one of the things I chose is this app hosting, and that was causing conflicts with what I wanted, which was just normal hosting. Subsequently, I found out that the best way to work with this is not to choose too many things at once. It's just to add things as you go. Because I just find that it can be, some of the automation can be quite flaky and the developer usability can be quite flaky. So you might set up storage thinking that you need it for a certain thing. Then you need to jump, then it has an error and then you go and dig into the error and you go and set up something in Google Cloud and you come back here and it works. But if you select too many of these things, you just end up failing and starting over, and you kind of haven't really established what baselines, or you haven't really established clear goals or steps in the process. So all I did when I first set up again was do the hosting one, and what that did is created an in the cloud hosting. So if I go over to this pin tab, so here's my in the cloud hosting. Eventually I'll put it, there's nothing here at the moment. So obviously this domain, you don't want anyone to just use this domain. So there'll need to be a lot of checks and balances, but essentially this is the domain that was created in hosting. So if I come over to Firebase, I should be able to go to my project, which is now Pontify-AC, AC being Aussie Coffee. And still getting the hang of this. Project shortcuts, I want to go to hosting. Here we go, hosting. And we should see under here, let's pin hosting, let's pin Firestore. So we should see under here our web app. It's cool. And I had the local, all right, let's come over here. So in this, so that's, I'm going to cancel out of that. So that's all I've done to start with, is just started a new Firebase app. And I had to do Firebase use project because it was sticky. The old project was sticky and it was causing lots of problems. So that's sort of why I kind of had misgivings about the DX of Firebase, but I make the assumption that once everything is set up and running smoothly, that you're good. So one of the goals is we want to be running locally today, and we also want to be deploying to the cloud, and we want to see that smooth process where we're not having ongoing issues. Got the old code base over here. So if I do, is it PNPM that I've got here? Let's just have a look. Or did I set up? I think it's NPM. So if we look at the package.json, we're in the front end app. So this app, so as I showed in one of the earlier videos, this whole project has multiple apps. So if I look at the previous directory, you can see there's some edge workers, there's front end, there's desktop, like a kiosk, there's back end, biometric bridge, and we're just trying to cut this whole project down to a web app that runs in the cloud. And yeah, we do have to do some fingerprint scanning, which is a later video, but we're really trying to simplify this. But at the moment, I'm using the front end as a way of kind of getting into the head of the vibe coder who built the project. So I'm in the front end. I've got a command here which is dev. So if I do npm run dev, I don't know if you know. If you don't know, all of the JavaScript builders always have these script sections, and so I prefer pnpm, but in this project it's npm, and if I do npm run dev, so these are all arbitrary. So you might be in another project and there's no run dev on that project. So you can see there's some other stuff here and kiosks and so forth, but all I want to do is run the front end. So npm run dev should give us a domain, localhost. So I'll jump over here and I'll run it. And so this is what we're using as kind of like our kind of guidelines framework. In the previous video I did go through, I've just changed this to English. This is all vibe coders know looking at any code in this project. That said, it has lots of errors and things, but essentially it's like you've got this dashboard. You're meant to be able to see a list of employees, and competencies and training. It's like it's a HR system. So if you've ever worked for a company where you used Employment Hero, this is a specific app that Daniel has built for the cafe. I won't go into it anymore because previous videos have done that, have looked at that aspect of it. So what we've done is we've cleared everything out and we're just going to be targeting features. I also have my Todoist app, and what I've done is I've set up a project, and I just got Hermes to set up this project for me by describing what we're trying to do. So a lot of these things will probably be tick-offs, quick ticks. So we're going to step down through this as we go in this session. And what else do I have? I think like that's a large. I've got my whiteboard if I need it. So I've got my Zen browser with Excalibur ready to go if I want to do some drawings. And I think that's it. Okay, so, and also I have not ChatGPT Classic, it's not what I want. I want ChatGPT. Okay, so I also have my project, and so this is pointing at that local code base. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to kick off and get some stuff started here. I will just do a quick Firebase deploy. I mean, I just did this last night, but let's do a Firebase deploy and let's just see that running. That's our baseline. And I will also commit the code once I've got this baseline. Oh, I do have also my Z browser. So here's the, Z editor. So Z editor with the new code base and the copy of the old code base, which is basically the same repo checked out to the main branch, just so I can reference code in there if I need to. And these are just side by side in the file system. So there's my successful deployment. So let's just add everything here. Successful hosting deployment. And I'm sure that it really hasn't done much at all. So if we just look at our baseline files, what do we have? So we've got this public. So it's created an index file. So this is sort of your boilerplate Firebase app, more or less. And you've got a 404. You've got its own internal cache that it's got, and that's going to be excluded, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, so that's excluded from Git. Git ignore. So this is one that this has got a lot of stuff in it, obviously, from the old app. So I might just remove the old specific paths to the old app, and we'll just have this generic git ignore file. We've got this Firebase file, so we can see hosting public, and this file will expand as we add services to our Firebase app. Git attributes, cloud ignore. What else is there to look at? Firebase RC. And so that should match our project as well. And I've just started a really simple README just with some links. Okay, so what we want to do is let's get it started on local. So come back over to is my Super Whisper started? Okay, we have an application that is just basically hosting in our Firebase application. What we want it to do is be able to see a dashboard locally. So we'll need an emulator for the hosting, and we want to replace the default index, and we're going to have not going to have a SPA application for this. We're going to have a traditional sort of JavaScript built application with multiple routes, and just going blank here for a second, and with multiple routes. And do we want anything else? And just a login screen. Okay. And just a login screen. So where's the bit where we're going to have traditional and I'm going blank here for a second. So let's remove that. Just a login screen. Okay, so let's let Chat Codex do that work while we come over and have a look at our to-do list. So Bootstrap, initialize a Firebase project in console and pick a product project. Done. Install Firebase CLI. So we've got Firebase CLI locally, so that's fine. Run Firebase init in the app repo, enable hosting. Now, I didn't enable Firestore. I just enabled hosting. So let's leave this undone. Commit the Firebase. Let's come back to this then. We're going to commit those files. We've done an initial commit. We're going to commit all the time anyway, so let's just mark that as done. Environment example with all of those things in it. Yeah, I'll just put that on hold for a second. I'm really going to see that local development emerge as we add features. Add the Firebase emulator. So we're already adding an emulator. Local emulators. What does it think? It wants auth, Firestore, hosting, and UI. Sure. Connect the app emulators. So I've put in the instructions. I'm planning to retrofit whatever the application comes out of the box. I'm planning to retrofit that with Tailwind and set up a style guide to my taste. And I'm going to do a style which is really simple. I'm just going to check and see how Codex is going. Usually what I like to do is as the AI does its thing is I like to kind of see what it might be building at the same time. So inspect the current project. This is a very small Firebase hosting project. It is. I'm reading those files now. I'm going to replace the generated Firebase welcome page with a static multi-page app shell. And I want to see what it does by default. So I'm assuming that, so usually when I'm working with the LM, I'm kind of assuming that it will take my instructions and flesh out things that I've left unsaid. So I haven't said React, right? I'm not expecting a backbone application, you know. I'm kind of anticipating a React application, and but I sort of want to see whatever it gives me by default is probably going to be fairly consistent with what people do when they're building Firebase apps, which unless I've got a reason why I specifically don't want to do that, is what I want to do. So it's going to create some folder structures. So I'm not telling it how to do the folder structures. I want to kind of inherit what the generic every developer would normally do in this kind of situation. I'll also add a hosting emulator, and that's what I want, so I can start running it locally. First patch tried to replace the file. All right, doing its own thing. So it's now replaced that. So as it goes along, I'm interested to see what it does. Okay, so it's added the emulators to the Firebase.json. Now, this is my first Firebase app, so while I have become familiar with this file, this is the sort of thing that I like to know and see. I like to see, hey, I've added a feature. What actually happens in the code? So we can see that this Firebase.json, this whole idea of local development is done with emulators, and they're meant to replicate what's going to happen in the cloud. So we're sort of going with that. What else have we got? I'm just expecting to see an app here, like it'll replace whatever was currently there. So it should be just pretty much wiping out what was there. And yep, local Firebase hosting dashboard, Next, I'm adding the separate route pages and shared browser only JavaScript CSS. See how it's adding separate route pages? I don't want it to do too much of that really. So I don't want it to be stubbing out a 400-page application just because that's what it thinks. So we'll keep an eye on that. So I'm seeing I've got my public folder here. It's added empty folders, which is why they haven't shown up in Git yet. So it's created a structure. Login, reports, settings, 404. Is not changed, and the index has been changed. I don't have an initialized app yet, so I might tell it that I want to use PNPM to build locally. I'll give it my preferences for doing local JavaScript builds. So make sure it's PNPM and Vite for local building. Firebase is available. I wonder if I can make this bigger for the folks at home. Firebase CLI is available. Yes, that's all fine. The emulator did not start in the restricted sandbox, and I think the sandbox refers to ChatGPT itself. Its own sandbox. Port checks were blocked. No need to test yourself. I can test. Yep, PNPM is installed here. I'm keeping the public pages as the Vite source directory and changing the Firebase to serve dist. So that's definitely more of an app structure that I'm comfortable with, familiar with, or like. The Vite config has been set up, not a single page fallback, PNPM install, hit the sandbox because Corpack wants to write its user case. So allow PNPM to Corpack to write its package manager cache. Yes. All right, cool. It should be getting towards the end of its task here. Okay, so now I've got a package.json. So we've got, we're using Vite to build. And I've got the PNPM lock. I've got a Vite config. That's fine. It's got ports for this for the local. And I've got a login page. I've got an index page for reports. I've got an index page for settings, all good. Don't have much more. Oh, I've got an index page. I have an assets and app.js. Do a little scan, set local sessions, so a bit of session handling, add event listeners to the page. Yes, all good, all fine. And some styles.css, sure. I think. So I'm going to steer it. It's trying to start the Firebase hosting on the configured local port, and I don't want it to just be constantly like, oh, I can't access this port, I can't do this. Okay, Firebase hosting now has a built output from dist on this URL. So port 5002 locally. It's added a package.json, added Vite, replaced the default Firebase index with a login screen. Yep, all the things that we can see. So let's try and start it. Quit. So PNPM. What was it? Yeah, let's just do a install. Let's just see if we get any things like warnings. All right, we want to run approve builds for sure. And we want to approve ES build. The next package will now be built. Yes. Yep, cool. Okay, so PNPM install is clean. PNPM, and what was the next one? Build. Okay. Okay, that's good. And then I can't even remember what it was, but it's probably run dev. So let's run dev and see what happens. Yep. So there's a URL there. Just looking at that port 5173, 5174. I wonder if that was, yeah, port 5. So it's possible that that's left over from ChatGPT doing it, which I don't know. I'm just guessing because it's put that port in. It must have been able to hit that at some stage. So whatever. Look, I'll update that to 4 while I'm here. So we want to get this. We just want to have a nice clean start. PNPM run dev. There's our clean start. All right. What browser am I using again? So I'll jump over to Chrome. Okay, so here's our local login, local Firebase. What is it? Like crap. It's just whatever. We're not gonna even test it. We just wanted an app dashboard. I wonder if I can just go to one of these pages and it's accessible. I'm assuming it's going to be, and it wants me to authenticate. So it wants a session before I can access any of this. So let's just leave it like that. So I can let that run. So the next thing, no, actually I don't want to let that run. I might run that in another tab. So let's come over here. Let's make another tab and ECAC Pontify and PNPM. What was it? Run dev. Just jump into my README. So start the local PNPM dev. npm build, npm install. So I'm just trying to get the really basic scaffolding of a README in place here. Okay, so since I've got a login now, I'm gonna snapshot our progress. I've looked through all the files. I'm moderately, I'm happy. I understand what all the files are doing, so I'm cool with everything that's in there at the moment. So we've got a basic dashboard. Not sure if you can log in. Okay. So the next, if I jump back to my to-do list, I think I want to jump over to doing I kind of want to explore what happens when I ask for certain things to be set up in a certain way. So I'm going to ask for Tailwind 4 to be set up, and I'm going to ask for a very brutalist style guide. So what I want to do is I want to have a style guide which is clearly not made for humans. Like, it's almost like I don't want to see a style which is like AI dog shit. That's kind of blur, blur. I want to make I want to do a really brutalist hardline, no rounded edges style, so that I can then point to the style guide and at a later point go, okay, this is where we're going to put the style guide. What is our style guide? Do we have a style guide? Because I like style guides. So I'll jump back to ChatGPT and I'm going to start a new session, a new context. So let's start chatting. In the current project, there's a Vite plus PNPM plus sort of setup, and it uses a CSS style sheet for the app, and I want to use Tailwind 4, and I want to have a base Tailwind style guide set up, all ready to go, maybe with an empty sorry, actually I'll take that bit out because I can't remember the thing I wanted to ask. And I want to have like a really like brutalist. I want my app to look white or off-white, and I want to have really hard sort of square corners and high contrast, kind of blacks with dark red highlights, and I sort of don't want to have any fluffiness. I want, like, let's use the Tailwind Pros class as much as possible, and we're not going to try and create something that kind of quote looks nice. We're just going to create something that's got minimalist, brutalist CSS, but does have a kind of a look and feel. Usually when I'm doing the Super Whisper stuff, I'm like going, when I rambled, when I kind of forgot what I was trying to say, how much is that going to affect the context? So I might just, can't remember the thing, empty. So I'm just going to take that out. So it might not matter that this sentence is in here. It might not change the outcome because it's so waffly, but whatever. Okay. So the goal here is to get a Tailwind 4 set up. I like Tailwind 4. I understand I like Tailwind because for something like this where if I'm working in a team and there's a lot of opinionated CSS attitudes, I would generally go for a traditional like Vite CSS, modern CSS approach. When you get in this situation where anybody might be jumping in and touching the CSS at any given time, kind of like Tailwind is a low risk solution because you can kind of see what they do. They're not making massive changes to CSS files. They want to change something, they'll tend to change it in place in the template. So whatever your opinion is of Tailwind, you just want to be like, it does allow a project lead to have a certain type of control over what goes on in the project. Okay, so just might check and see if I've got any questions or anyone's like cares. I've got 2 views, no watches. Okay, let's have a look at. So to start with, it's added what I'd expect, which is basically Tailwind CSS, no crazy plugins yet. git status. I am expecting to see at some stage so maybe it's added a source directory. So let's jump over into Z. So we've got a dist. What is it doing? What is it up to? I'm replacing the old blue teal rounded style with tokenized tailwind base, off-white black ink, hard borders, no radius by default, dark red access for state and emphasis. I'm making 3 focused edits to the Vibe plugin. I think the thing I would have expected to see some of the changes it's making when I do a git status. Oh, there we go. Okay, it's deleted the styles.css. I'm adding the new Tailwind 4 styles now. Okay, I'm going to get rid of this and this and this. I don't care about all this detail, this style guide detail. I don't care about, oh look, you can add dark mode toggle later. I don't care. Document style guide in the README, link consistently from new pages. It's almost like the light dark mode that's so popular these days. I watched a video yesterday and someone was showing how to deploy to Cloudflare pages, and they brought their app up that they'd built in a previous video, and they went and they clicked light mode, dark mode, and it's like when people started doing nice CSS and you'd open up a page and you'd zoom in and zoom out, because you'd want to see how the text was responsive. Like when we started doing responsive, it was like, oh, the really cool thing that I've done is responsive. Like dark mode is not cool. I don't know how else to say that. It is cool, but it's not cool. It's just basic. Just make a good UX app, and sure, dark mode, you're going to have dark mode, but I just think it's funny. I think it's more funny the behavior of people showing off what they've built more than my hatred for dark. I don't hate dark mode. That'd be a silly thing to say. Let's see where chat's got up to. So we've got a style guide here. Interesting. Let's see what it's put in this style guide. It looks like it might have generated a style guide, which is kind of okay. So it's generated a style guide. I like that. Let's go. That's cool. Let's see if we can actually access that now. Copy relative path. Do we need to restart and stop? It should automatically. Yeah, there's the style guide. So it's automatically reloading. That's good. Okay, let's come over here. Oops, what am I doing? We've got the new style coming up. I love it. So I'm trying to go style guide /index.html. No, it wants me to log in. Oh, but look at this background. Like, look at this shading. Like, it's so funny and so dodgy. I love it. Like, if you're gonna do a custom design, like this is fine, but this is, I don't know. I'm not really sure if this. I'd be really. Well, maybe this is what Daniel likes. Maybe he likes to look at all these rainbow things on the side. I kind of want to build something where Daniel goes, I hate it. I'm going to change it. And also it's like fun just to be able to generate these random style guides just without like much of a thought at all. Make it brutalist and hard edged, and then put the graph paper background on it. I don't know. I love it. Okay. So I'll stop laughing at myself, my shenanigans. Do you want to allow Vite to bind to localhost so the app can be previewed in the browser? Deny. I can preview. Okay, Tailwind 4 is installed. So what have we got? Go back to the code. I just love this stuff. Okay, get status. So we've got the style guide as we saw, which we'll access when we log in. We've got a dashboard. We've got reports. Public assets. I want to see what's in this file. I want to see. That's dist. So public styles. Okay, so what have we got? It's set up a bunch of variables for fonts and for colors, which sure. It's set up a hard shadow variable for those corners around the box. And then it's doing a bunch of applies, generic applies to the different inputs and buttons and things. So fine. I think this type of thing is where you can see it's using style, so much style for so many different components in this application. This, to me, all of this just doesn't make any sense. Like, why? I mean, unless you're using sidebar across different templates, sure, and then you're reapplying this style. But I kind of think this just like, why don't just use normal CSS if you're going to do all this sort of stuff? I'm used to working in Drupal where you've got a lot of templates, and so in the template you put the style, and so anytime you're reusing something, like I'm expecting that a sidebar, and I'll find out later, but I'm expecting that a sidebar is going to be something in the app that can be rendered, and there's a single instance of it that gets re-rendered. So if that's the case, why isn't this all this stuff in line in that template? Let's just see if, yeah. So chat stopped talking. Let's go and let's grep for something that's specific. Metric strip. Okay, let's grep for this metric strip. And I want to stay, it's got a big hit against the dist folder. So yeah, index.html. And let's just like, my grep is pretty bad. So I've got two metric strips. I've got one in the index.html and I've got one in login index.html. So in theory, if it's going to reproduce this metric strip every time it does in HTML, I would start to go, because normally I'd want to see all the Tailwind styles here in this div. And if I'm not going to get that, if the system isn't capable of reusing templates and things to set up, then I would just say, why are we using Tailwind? Pretty much. This has defeated the whole purpose of Tailwind, is having this separation. It's not co-locating anymore. Stop whinging. So good enough for me at the moment. It's a little bit of proof of concept that I can get what I want. So here's me getting what I want. Oh, this fuck is. I think this kind of thing where it's giving me 94% in the UI here, when I come over here, a lot of this stuff isn't, even if I have the back end running, a lot of this stuff isn't working. Like I've confirmed with Dan who built it. I've said, this scheduling thing, I couldn't get it to work. And he's like, oh no, that never worked. And so I look at some of this dashboard stuff and I go, so if I see something in a dashboard that says 5 on break, I don't know. If you go too far down the path of building stuff without it actually working, then you end up getting a lot of this fake, where's my page gone? You end up getting a lot of these fake statistics. Just filling in gaps. But whatever, not too bad at the moment. The next thing I want to do is I want to log in with my Google. So this should be one of the things that is like one of the big strengths of using Firebase, is having this really nice repeatable patterns of authentication using Google. Simple. Our requirements are such that I'm just going to commit my progress git add dot git cr add Tailwind. Our requirements are for anyone with a Google account to log in. So we we will need, obviously we'll need at some stage to essentially whitelist people who can access, because otherwise anyone with a Google account will be able to log in. At the moment, we just want someone with a Google account to be able to log in. We don't, if you think about it, we have a bunch of staff who are serving tables, making coffees. Those staff don't necessarily have full identity in Google Workspace. We have Google Workspace for the cafe, but we have only a couple of users in there from a cost effectiveness point of view. There just would not be a huge amount of value to give all employees a login. So our goal is to allow, we just want people to authenticate and to say, yes, this person is who we expect it to be. They've authenticated against jimmy@gmail.com. And so that's what we're going to add. Where is my thing gone? Okay, I'll start a new session, a new chat. Remember my shortcut. Okay, so the login for this application, we want to integrate this with Google authentication. Anybody with a Google Workspace email, so Gmail, and specifically the domain aussiecoffeebrazil.com, but that is a Google Workspace account. We want them to be able to authenticate and to then log in. And once they've logged in, they can see the style guide. So if they just log in, they can see the style guide. They can't access any other part of the system. So the style guide would effectively be the rule would be, am I authenticated? If so, I can see the style guide. When they are logged in, it also should indicate to them that they are logged in somewhere on that page, just with like a little status box or something. All right, let's go. I'm going to, while it's doing this, I'm going to start thinking about my agents.txt and okay, agents.md. I want to think about the kind of things that I want to tell the agents file, like tell any agent that's going to be used. So who's going to be using this? What tools are going to be using this? I potentially would be accessing this with, obviously ChatGPT is what me and my brother use, Codex, but I use Hermes potentially. Like I do have another application which I interact with using Hermes, and I'm using Minimax M3 model for that. So what we sort of want to be able to do is, I don't love when the agents start internal services and then they're still running and they're hogging ports and things. It's a bit of a funny one because it's a bit of my feel for it. It's just like, I think if I can't start a service that an agent's built, that an AI's built, I can always just paste what's happening or what the error was. And it works more to my flow. So I'm going to start and say, do not run local services, dev services, unless asked. What else do we want to do? This is a Firebase application, and the goal is to run it using native Firebase component services. So do not add non-Firebase services unless asked or approved. Let's jump back to ChatGPT and see how it's going. I'll only work inside this checkout. Now, this I'll only work inside this checkout is actually a rule that I give my codex. And what I tell the codex is, if you're working on a project, don't look outside the folder. That's just what that is. And because what I was finding is that it would often like scan for other projects nearby and go, oh, I can see that you've got this other project that's like you're using this thing. And then I'll go, whoa. Like, I didn't ask you to do that. And I don't want it. And basically, when it looks outside of the checkout, I find it picks up context that I don't want to have. So you might see that in some of the messaging. Just see if I've got any questions. No. Okay. Implemented Google sign-in and guide-only access. Firebase Google Auth. I like that phrase. Allowed domains Gmail, AussieCoffeeBrazil.com. Oh, that's cool. So I didn't specifically ask for that because I didn't want to create a fuss, but obviously that's a clear pattern. That's just ready to go. I will double check I've got that domain right. So AussieCoffeeBrazil.com, great. Add hobbs.id.au domain as well, please. Okay, changed. I've changed this. I've allowed these domains redirects authenticated users to style guide. Great. Blocks unauthenticated users from protected pages. This I'm expecting to see some out-of-the-box Firebase controls and configuration to control the access. I have seen what it should look like, so I'm expecting to see that verified. Index, yes. Replace the username password login, that's fine. Remove other. So we don't want user password login really. We're going to have fingerprint scanning. Cool. Removed other nav links and added a signed in status box showing the authenticated email. Added style for Google button and status box. Build passes. Firebase authentication still needs Google provided enabled in the Firebase console with the app's domains authorized. Also, this is a client-side route guard on the static site for a hard security around non-style guide pages. Those pages should not be deployed publicly. Well, yeah, of course. I think I did ask for this non-style, like for the style guide pages, just to set up the expectation of freely accessible pages versus different role levels. So it just gives me a starting point. It gives me a really mundane starting point for, hey, you logged in, that's great. And then I can add things on that. It said I had to enable authentication in the cloud. So now I'm going to have a look at what it's added. So we have some changes. We have app.js. Zed should show me this as well. So there's app.js. What is it added? Okay, it's added a bunch of authentication stuff. Restricted paths, is login path, is allowed email. Like I would have thought that this was built-in configuration stuff for Firebase. This is the sort of thing where I've asked for something and then it's gone ahead and done something I didn't ask for. Like I didn't ask it to do custom JavaScript and check domains. I would have more expected that it would be, configuration, Firebase level configuration. We'll get to that in a bit. So is allowed email, set login message. Sure, it's pretty normal stuff. Update auth status. Load Firebase auth. Sure. This is something that, I can understand generically what it's doing, but I've never done this before. So I just trust it that that's going to work or not work. On auth ready, show a callback for when that's done. Google sign-in is only available from the Firebase hosted app. Interesting. Add event listener to the DOM on content load. And we have, so it's doing this, pretty common to do this data selectors in in the HTML, which essentially what you'll see in HTML is div, data, Google, login. It'll be something like that, I think. Anyway, anytime you see data, that's going to be marking up the HTML DOM. For these classes and things, or not classes, for data attributes, in order to hook logic on them. So that it's grabbing the login form from the DOM, the Google login button from the DOM, logout links from the DOM. Okay, they don't need to know they can use hobbs.id.au. That's fine. Google sign in was not completed, try again. So this is just pretty standard stuff. It's interesting to me, that it's all in this app.js and it hasn't split this out into some sort of auth.js. Obviously, if we put everything in this one app.js, it is going to get long. I mean, these are different routes. So the app.js is sort of going to be the backbone behind all of our index files. So if we come into here and we look at our dashboard index file, we should see, you'll see the app.js. So that this is basically the pattern is build this app.js and then add it to every index file, rather than have like React routing or something like that, which I'm fine with. This is fun. I don't mind this pattern at all. Fairly simple. So again, most of the changes are in that apps file, and then there's a few. What sort of changes are we expecting to see here? Sign in, sign out. Obviously, the more pages we have, the more we're going to repeat things on all of these pages, the sign in, sign out buttons and so forth, login forms and so forth. But we won't prematurely abstract that or optimize that. All right. So we're here, continue with Google. Google sign-in was not completed. So now let's go to, so it's not doing anything. I'm not going to look at the console yet or anything like that because there's something I want to do. What I want to do is I want to do Firebase init and I want to go through the steps that it wants me to go through for authentication. Set up Firebase authentication. Perhaps I should have done this first. Okay, which Firebase features do you want set up for the directory? Google sign in. So we want Google sign in. Yes. What display name would you like to use for your auth brand? Aussie Coffee. Sure. What support email would you like to register for your auth brand? Let's just mine. Since this is a live feed. Write the configuration to firebase.json. If you are using an AI coding agent, would you Firebase agent? No, I don't want that. All right. So it's added this auth to our firebase.json. Expected to see something like that. What did it add to Firebase RC? Nothing. That was what it was already. I want to deploy this. I want to take away my localhost limitations here. And I also want to see that I'm not getting any errors. I was getting an error here. What was that from? That was from when I was mucking around when something changed the file. It looks like Vite is building successfully. So let's refresh that. Give it a quick test. It says Google Sign's not completed. I want to deploy it and see what happens. Just stop that and we'll do Firebase deploy. Interesting. Okay. No Firebase web app found, creating a default web app for auth provisioning. So that's a web app as opposed to hosting. Deploy complete. I mean, I was getting errors so often yesterday when I was running these sorts of commands. So it's good to see that things seem to be flowing. Give me this URL. So there's my overview, but is that the same as this? No, different. Okay, so that's the overview, project overview, hosting, Firestore. Is there a authentication? If I click authentication, I pin that. No users yet. All right, sure, that's good. This is the kind of stuff we want to get out of Firebase. We want, if it's going to give me the users here, then that's fantastic. This is the overview. Hosting, Firestore. Okay. But if I click app hosting, it did say it created a default app. I wonder if I can see that. To use app hosting, upgrade your project's pricing plan. I do want to do this. I want to move to, so it's using the right billing account, choose a billing account, see full plan, Blaze plan. I want to use this pay-as-you-go plan. And the reason for that is I want all the features. I want all of the standard features. I don't want to lose features because I'm trying to go cheap, cheap, cheap. We are expecting this to be cheap. We are wanting to prove that this is a cheap application to run, given that it's one cafe, small amount of users through the day. That's my project. So Blaze plan, I thought that, oh, I see. Maybe that's just the plan. Yeah. Okay, cool. All right. Free source billing, please. So I'm the one that's going to cop it if I screw up. Link cloud billing account. We don't be charged for usage. Now, I'm not going to go into the details of the difference between the plan I was on and the Blaze plan, because I don't really know exactly what they are. But what I do want to know is one of the things I want to find out from this project is what kind of costs will I be incurring running this project as a standard out of the box Firebase project. No dumbed down features. Just give me the tools. Okay. All right, so I've done that, and that finished as well. And what I want to do is I want to go to my web app and see if I can log in. Continue with Google. Signing was not completed. Right, so I'm getting an error here. Let's just have a look in the console. Unknown variable, dynamic import. And I'm going to assume I'm getting that locally as well. Clear, refresh. Oh, I'm not running locally. Let's just run that again. Unknown variable dynamic import, and that's what I was getting here as well. Okay. Error both locally and in the cloud. Okay. Just doing the AI dance here of just fix it, no mistakes. I haven't really spoken on any videos about where I sit in terms of the being a vibe coder versus being a coder. So I I definitely have moved to going from writing the code, and I wouldn't say was the best best JavaScript coder. I've done a lot of PHP in my life, but I've done a fair bit of JavaScript, for the browser. But what I do find is that you'll see me look at the code, make judgments about the code, and then go off and do boilerplate activities with AI. So that I'm kind of in a thinking space in terms about what I'm trying to achieve and what I'm trying to build, and then I'm doing this little dance. I'm constantly looking at these things and questioning, is something gone off track? Would someone else get this problem? Is there something that I missed in the context? Is there some way that I've misled the AI and it's going down this path? And again, whenever I do any of these changes, I want to see what's changed in the file system. Okay, it apparently has fixed that. So let's give that a go. Okay, here's my sign in. Whoops, did I lose that screen? What happened then? Something's happening. Again, let's deploy. While we wait for Firebase deploy. I'm going to come back into a console. And you can see it's sort of good. I have hardly built anything. I want to see the full login lifecycle flow. I want to see this working, and then from that point, keep it working, and then it's just a case of building features, right? So we sort of want to have a baseline. Now, for some reason, I feel like this is quite... Firebase error, auth unauthorized domain at app.js 119. Here's another way to look at it: is I'm trying to maintain a level of contact with the code that means I don't get in a situation where I have to get my hands dirty. So I'm quite happy to let it bang its head against this code and as long as I can then look at the final result and go, okay, that seems okay. That at least seems okay. Okay, so it's reacting to the current domain. So it might be that our local domain, it's currently bound to 127. Okay. I definitely wouldn't be surprised to have issues with running off the localhost, which is why I just did that deployment. So let's at the same time jump over to our cloud and see if we can log in. Okay. Asking for permission. And we have a full handshake, and that's fantastic. There is our style guide. I'm expecting now that we've logged in to be able to go to the user list somewhere in authentication here and see my user. That's great. So we should be able to see over time a dozen people in here, a couple of dozen people in here who are authenticated. That is good. I can't, I want it to work locally as well. So let's just keep allowing ChatGPT to keep solving this. FYI, I tested this works in the cloud. I'm checking with So yeah, it would be a little bit annoying to only be able to test features by deploying them. That's like, otherwise what's the point? So perhaps we need like local emulation. Perhaps we just log in as a user in a different way. But we do need it locally so that we can obviously test features logged in. It says my G Cloud is out of date, so let's go and have a look at that. G Cloud version. G Cloud, well, that looks pretty old. Let's see. Self upgrade. Brew, maybe Brew. Which G Cloud? Where does it live? It lives in Homebrew. So Brew upgrade. Seems quite old because I do update. You update Brew pretty often. Did that just do a general? I always forget the difference between update and upgrade. Brew, yes, so I've done that. I just run a Brew update as we are. Everything's up to date. Okay. Now, do we get a different version of G Cloud? We do not. Or did we? Don't seem to. The installed G Cloud is older and doesn't include the identity platform command group. I wonder if that's because it's a plugin add-on. I can still fix the local sub by using localhost instead of 127, and I'll make the app show a specific unauthorized domain message instead of a generic failure. Local dev will now use localhost, which should avoid the command updating the README. A bit of better error handling, good. I fixed the local case by changing Vite to serve localhost instead of 127. I also made the login screen show a specific message when Firebase returns unauthorized domain. For cloud, this still needs the Firebase console setting authorized domains. So Firebase console authentication settings. All right, I see. And it wants me to add the domains that I'm running the app on. Sure. Okay, let's see if we can find that. Authentication. Settings. And what does it say? Authorized domains. There we go. Okay, add domain, localhost. A valid domain name is required. So I think in the next session we'll set up a domain, a local domain, and see if we can improve that situation and point it locally. All right. what have we got here? Let's see if we can log in based on what it has done. The current domain is not authorized for auth operations. All right, sure. So I think the next thing we'll need to do in the next session is be able to log in with an admin, an email address, local admin. I will do a bit of research to see what the appropriate best way to do that is. I'll just search for this hobbs.id.au and remove that. Crap. I need to get my search foo working a little bit better. There it is in index.html in public login. Use a Gmail or AussieCoffeeBrazil.com Google account. Sure. I think that's a good point to commit our progress. Actually, let's reset that for a second. I want to see exactly what's going on in app.js. I'll just have a quick look and see if there's anything a bit crazy. Nah, look. It doesn't smell bad. I just need to work out what the local login process is going to be, whether I'm using Google account for that or whether I can just log in with the username and password. Okay, save that. Save that. And what's this? Firebase hosting cache. I don't really want to put that into the repo, I don't think. Index. Okay, I think I'm going to take that out of the repo. I don't want that to be in the repo. It just looks like a configuration, like a ephemeral configuration file. So let's jump to our git ignore and chuck in. Is there anything else in that folder? No, let's just ignore the Firebase. It'll fail. Yeah, let's ignore the Firebase folder. And git status, that's better. Git add dot git ci being commit for me, and then we can log in with Google in the cloud. And let's push. All right, let's just stop for a second and see whether we should add like use a password login locally, whether we as an alternative might be the easiest thing to do. Something I want to test is like if we had use the password login and we log in, how do we deploy that? Like obviously the Google login just works in the cloud because it exists outside of the app, the actual Google account. And so we want to be able to do fingerprint login, and I don't know if, and almost like having password login might be just a basic validation that we can have users with both kind of mixed together. So let's try that. If I go, so firstly, I'll go Firebase init, and we'll step through the process of, I'll go down to authentication, and I'm only going to choose email password. Whoops. That failed, I think. I'll just Control C. This is what I mean about the, some of the DX of this is, I mean, I know this is probably nothing to do with the app, but Control C. Like I I constantly am missing these items and hitting enter and getting errors. But if you see, if I go down here at the moment and I go space enter, it already has Google sign in, so that's fine. If I enter now, I've missed. If I go down and hit enter, which feels like the right thing to do, it actually doesn't do what I want. Display the name you would like. So you should be picking up values, configured values, so that's fine. Agent skills, no. Do I want to make it an expert at Firebase? Wrote configuration, wrote project information to Firebase RC. Okay. If I was to do init again, let's add the skills and see what it adds, and then decide whether that's a good thing or not. I have noticed that I get specifically different tone of answers when I ask Gemini in Google Cloud about Firebase. So let's let it make our ChatGPT smarter. All right, so what I'm interested in is if I hit authentication here, yes, it knows what the two values are. So let's hit enter, confirm those values, and let's install the skill and see what changes. Okay, modified Firebase. Okay, it's allowing email password sign in. Sure, that makes sense. But where did the skill go? Did it go into a folder that skills lock? Okay. But is that git log skills lock? Is that excluded from git? Git add skills lock? Git status? New file, okay. If I do a git resetting, okay, so there's agents. All right, so what does it put in here? Agent skills, Copy relative path. Let's jump in here. Refer to for Firebase specific skills. Always refer to and use agent skills for Firebase specific skills. Okay, so we've just chucked in our agents.txt to make sure that our AIs are being pointed at the right place to use skills that we've added. That seems fine. Seems fine so far, based on just some little gaps that I find using ChatGPT. All right. Now I want to come back here and I want to go, do I want to do it in this same chat? No, new chat. So I have enabled email password login. I need that to be to show on the login form. Hidden by default. Expand on click, just to keep it nice and neat. And I'll do that, and also note that note the new skills in .agents. So what I want, so now I'm sort of thinking, so this is where I'm sort of kind of wondering, and my understanding of Firebase isn't quite complete to know where that user is going to be stored. So it'll need emulation locally for storage. But how does that user get created in the cloud and so forth? I'm not really worried about how to enroll people or how to invite them to the platform. I'm just more wondering about the way the state gets stored between my local and the cloud. This is the first thing where I've got state to manage. Okay, and then why the form to submit Firebase's email password signing while keeping both the existing domain registration and Google Path intact? Okay, I'm in my local. Is it still running? It's still running. Okay, there's my email and password. See, this is getting ugly. Like, is it going to add like a drop down, like a border? Like, if it didn't have the border, we wouldn't be in this situation right now, where we've got this drop shadow, but no drop shadow on the form below, and it just looks gross. Still keep finding these hobbs.id.au references. Still got the unauthorized domain issue locally. So what's going on with... Okay, so verify did not start any local dev service. Thank you very much. Can you programmatically insert Simon at hobbs.ad.au slash email. Oh wait, password 123 into the local data, into local users, so I can log in. And that is a completely naive question. Like, I'm sure it has a way to do it, but I don't know how the emulator works. Okay, so it's going to check to see if it can use the auth emulator locally. So I want it to pick the right solution. And there seems to be an auth emulator. The current app only runs the hosting emulator locally. It is not yet wired to an auth emulator. I'm checking the project notes now. The notes point to Vite local dev, not a persisted Firebase auth emulated user store. Can I just keep credentials in a local variables file? Dev testing in local variables file. Keep local dev testing. Okay, so I'm asking it, can I keep local dev testing credentials in a variables file? So it doesn't need to use any kind of local auth state. So I didn't do that in time, and it's created an auth emulator on the local host, which is fine. There's a seed command for that exact account. What is the seed command? Where was that? I saw it say a seed, so there we go. Seed local auth. Sure. Login locally with Simon Hobbs 123. All right. Really interested to see what it's added here. Let's jump in. Firebase.json. It has added auth, local emulator for auth, which is fine. Email password is turned on. It's fine. Packages, it's added seed the auth, so that's to be run locally when you first set up. Let's have a look at what this script does. This is where we learn about how a platform works. So It's pulling up this env.local. Sure. Which is kind of dumb. So it's not using this env.local. Well, it's using this to seed. So it kind of combined my requests together rather than just using this as a local login. It's using it to seed the local emulator, in which case it just may as well be in this script. I'll leave it for the moment. All right, so it's saying, hey, you can, yeah, sure, okay. So the user can create a local env.local and put in a user and password for their local development. Sure. I think env.local is dumb. The whole idea of an env is that it lives in the environment that it is applicable to. So it should just be .env. And if it's not committed, if it's committed, sure, but these things have secrets in them and stuff, right? So you basically have .env, create a .env file. Environment stands for environment, and put your local auth email into that environment file. .local is redundant here. What else have we got? So seeding. So it's doing a request to the emulator, creating a user. I'm going to rework this at some point so that I'll create a seed file for local where it'll have like an admin user, a non-authenticated user, an admin user, and so on. And then, yeah. And then a seed command that can populate the local emulator with that information. So I'll leave it as is for the moment. I can see what's happening. It's fine. How do I run that again? So agents is me. Firebase. Okay, I've looked at these files. What else has been added? My skills. Public. Styles. Got it here. Now, this is not worth having Tailwind if this is what everything is going to be. I don't think it's added any Tailwind classes at all. I've noticed that a little bit in public Tailwind projects. It's like, I think I saw some Shopify themes that said, this Shopify theme is Tailwind compatible. And then you look at it and there's no Tailwind classes being really used inside the templates. It's just a massive big Tailwind configuration file. Just bizarre. Okay, I'm going to see if I can run this seed auth. So pnpm dev run seed auth. What is it saying? Could not see the local Firebase because it hasn't started. Start the emulator with pnpm run emulators. Sure. Don't hate this. Could not start the hosting emulator port taken. So let's jump over here. Let's cancel this out and let's run the emulators from this tab. Although I did like the fact that this just kind of, yeah, port taken. Yeah, this is a bit of a mess. I like to run a command where let's run dev here, and then let's have a look at our file. I think it's just getting mixed up. It's got multiple ports being run. This is, okay, so this is pnpm build and Firebase emulator start. So what's dev then? V, that's the front end. Let's see if we can just start our auth emulator. Let's do a new tab. AC. What's our project called again? AC Pontify. Let's try running that. Let's have a look at the ports being used. So I will want to have a command that I run that starts all of the things locally. So this is a bit of a mess at the moment. This is the start of a mess. This is how messes start. We've got multiple things starting applications here, and here. Maybe I created this because I wanted to introduce Vite to the situation. Yeah, it'd be good to have an emulator start here. There's a local host port. Hosting, auth. Why is it trying to start our hosting? We didn't ask to start it hosting. Oh, did I really do that? So emulator hub was unable to start on port 400. I don't know if that's a problem. And the logging emulator unable to start on 4500, starting on 4501. We really need to clean all that up. But I'm learning how the emulators work. I don't know. I don't think I will. If I need to clean that up for this video, I'm going to stop the video, but I am going to try and see if I can just log in with that email and password. .eu and password 123. Operation not allowed. Oh, look, I thought that was a good start. I thought that was a good attempt. We got pretty close. We got login on. So to review, we got login with Google on production. And here is our style guide. It says we're logged in. We can, and all we were trying to get out of this was just to see the style guide, our dumb brutalist based style guide. And I think in the next video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make sure I understand how the emulators should all be working and running locally. Get to a point where I can start and stop that locally and log in locally using an email and password, using a file that seeds the database with users that can log in locally, or maybe also get the Google login locally, in which case I feel like I might need to set up a domain to allow that to happen and not just localhost. So my name's Simon or Simesy, and my company is FreeSource. And yeah, thank you for joining today, and I hope to see you in the next video.